The billionaire CEO froze the instant she saw the man walking toward her table. She had expected an arrogant executive, a polished lawyer, or another wealthy investor trying to impress her. Instead, a tired single father stepped into the bright afternoon sunlight holding the tiny hand of one little boy while two more cheerful boys followed beside him. Every conversation inside the elegant restaurant seemed to fade away as the youngest child looked up with innocent eyes and quietly offered her a crayon drawing that simply read, "We hope you smile today." In that single breathtaking moment, the blind date everyone expected to fail became something no one in the room would ever forget. If you believe kindness can heal broken hearts, forgiveness can change lives, and hope deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our community. Aurora Whitmore had built one of the largest technology companies in the country before turning 38. Newspapers admired her intelligence, television hosts praised her leadership, and business magazines called her the woman who never lost. None of those headlines mentioned the loneliness waiting behind the glass walls of her luxurious office. Success had filled every corner of her calendar but had quietly emptied every corner of her heart. Years earlier, she had walked away from love after a painful betrayal, convincing herself that trusting another person was simply too expensive. She smiled during interviews, accepted awards with confidence, and donated millions to children's charities, but every afternoon she returned to a silent penthouse where no one asked how her day had gone. Across the city, Garrett Hayes lived in a modest home that echoed with laughter instead of wealth. 5 years earlier, he had lost his wife, Clara, after a sudden illness that shattered every dream they had built together. Left alone with 3 young sons, Garrett traded promotions for school pickups, business ambitions for bedtime stories, and personal comfort for the happiness of his children. Life was never easy. Bills arrived faster than paychecks. Laundry never seemed to end. The boys sometimes missed their mother so deeply that ordinary afternoons became unexpectedly emotional. Yet Garrett refused to let grief steal their childhood. Every day, he packed lunches with handwritten jokes, attended every school event, and reminded his sons that love could survive even the deepest loss. The 3 boys reflected different pieces of their father. 10-year-old Callan carried quiet responsibility far beyond his age. 8-year-old Brody possessed endless curiosity and asked questions about everything he saw. 5-year-old Finn believed almost every stranger had goodness hidden somewhere inside them. Together they filled Garrett's ordinary life with constant purpose. Garrett had never intended to go on a blind date. His sister insisted he deserved another chance at happiness and secretly submitted his name to a professional matchmaking charity event designed for busy professionals seeking meaningful relationships rather than glamorous introductions. Aurora's assistant had entered her name without much hope, believing her employer needed something in life that money could never buy. Everything went wrong before the date even began. The babysitter canceled only an hour beforehand because of a family emergency. Garrett called every friend he knew, but no one was available. He considered canceling immediately. Then Callan quietly reminded him that he had spent years teaching them never to break promises unless absolutely necessary. Garrett reluctantly phoned the event organizer to apologize, but the organizer surprised him by saying the restaurant welcomed families during the afternoon and asked whether bringing the children would be acceptable. Aurora was informed moments before arriving. She nearly canceled herself. She believed children deserved stable homes, not awkward introductions with strangers. Still, something inside her whispered that perhaps life rarely followed perfect schedules. When Aurora first saw Garrett entering with the boys, she assumed the afternoon would become painfully uncomfortable. Instead, Finn's colorful drawing landed gently in front of her before anyone even sat down. The drawing showed 4 smiling stick figures standing beside a woman wearing a bright yellow dress beneath a huge sun. Across the top, written in oversized letters, were the words, "Everyone deserves a happy day." Aurora felt something she had not experienced in years. It was not admiration or attraction. It was the unfamiliar warmth of hope. Lunch unfolded unlike any business meeting Aurora had ever attended. Instead of discussing stock prices or company expansions, Brody asked whether billionaires ever ate grilled cheese sandwiches. Callan politely apologized every time Finn accidentally interrupted. Garrett patiently redirected every conversation without embarrassment, treating each son with respect rather than frustration. Aurora watched carefully. Nothing felt rehearsed. Nothing appeared designed to impress her. She noticed Garrett cutting his own meal into 4 smaller portions because the boys finished theirs too quickly. She watched him wipe ketchup from Finn's cheek while listening carefully to Callan describe a science project. She realized he barely touched his own food because he spent the entire afternoon making sure everyone else felt comfortable. Aurora had met powerful men who demanded attention. Garrett quietly gave all of his away. After lunch, the charity event encouraged participants to visit a nearby community park where volunteers organized games for local families. Aurora almost declined, but Finn begged her to watch him race across the playground. Before she realized it, the billionaire CEO found herself cheering beside ordinary parents under warm afternoon sunshine while children laughed around them. An elderly volunteer approached Aurora with a warm smile and thanked her for sponsoring the community center that provided free tutoring for struggling families. Aurora had donated anonymously years earlier and was surprised anyone recognized her. Garrett overheard the conversation without saying a word. Only later did Aurora discover why his expression had suddenly changed. That very community center had helped Garrett after Clara died. Volunteers watched the boys while he worked overtime. Tutors helped Callan recover after months of grief damaged his school performance. Free meals carried the family through their hardest financial season. Garrett had never known who funded the center. Standing there in the afternoon sunlight, he quietly realized the woman everyone described as cold and unreachable had unknowingly helped keep his family together. His opinion of Aurora transformed instantly. Days later, Garrett returned to ordinary life believing the afternoon had simply been a pleasant memory. Aurora, however, found herself unable to stop thinking about the boys. Board meetings suddenly felt emptier than ever. Expensive dinners tasted strangely meaningless after sharing sandwiches with children who celebrated every small joy. Instead of sending flowers or expensive gifts, Aurora visited the community center where Garrett volunteered every Saturday afternoon repairing playground equipment and helping children with reading lessons. She arrived wearing simple clothes instead of designer suits, determined to understand the world beyond corporate offices. The children recognized her immediately because of Finn's excited wave. Week after week, Aurora returned. She read books aloud. She helped organize school supplies. She laughed when paint accidentally covered her sleeves during an art project. The polished executive slowly disappeared beneath genuine happiness she had forgotten existed. Meanwhile, gossip exploded across social media after photographers captured images of the famous billionaire sitting cross-legged on the grass surrounded by children. Some investors criticized her. Business commentators questioned her judgment. Anonymous online voices accused Garrett of chasing wealth through sympathy. The cruel rumors spread quickly. Garrett saw every headline. Rather than defend himself publicly, he quietly stopped attending community events where Aurora volunteered. He feared becoming another burden in her already difficult life. Aurora noticed immediately. She visited Garrett's modest home one sunny afternoon carrying nothing except a basket of homemade cookies baked with embarrassing enthusiasm after several failed attempts. The boys welcomed her joyfully. Garrett looked uncomfortable. He believed distance would protect everyone. Aurora understood his fear because she had lived behind emotional walls for years herself. Instead of arguing, she simply spent the afternoon helping the boys plant vegetables in their tiny backyard garden. Before leaving, she noticed Clara's photograph displayed proudly inside the living room. She stood silently before the picture. She never asked Garrett to forget his late wife. She thanked Clara in her heart for raising the kind of man standing before her today. That quiet moment changed everything. Garrett realized Aurora was not trying to replace memories. She wanted to honor them. Months passed beneath warm blue skies and bright afternoons filled with school events, charity projects, family picnics, and ordinary moments that slowly stitched broken hearts together. Aurora learned how to braid friendship bracelets even though they looked terribly uneven. Garrett laughed more often than he had since Clara passed away. Callan gradually stopped worrying about protecting everyone because he finally saw adults sharing responsibilities together. Brody proudly declared that rich people could actually be nice after all. Finn continued believing love was easier than adults made it seem. Then another unexpected challenge arrived. Aurora's board of directors demanded she choose between maintaining her carefully controlled public image or continuing her increasingly public relationship with an ordinary widowed father. Several influential investors feared sentimental headlines weakened the company's reputation. For years Aurora would have surrendered immediately. This time she refused. During a daytime shareholder meeting streamed live across the country, Aurora calmly explained that leadership meant serving people rather than impressing them. She reminded investors that compassion had never reduced the value of integrity. She announced expanded family support programs for company employees, including childcare assistance, grief counseling, and flexible schedules for single parents. The room fell silent. Many employees watching the broadcast wept openly. The market briefly reacted with uncertainty. Within weeks customer trust increased dramatically, talented employees praised the new culture, and even skeptical investors admitted the company's strongest asset had always been human dignity. Garrett watched the announcement from home with tears filling his eyes. Aurora had risked everything to remain true to herself. Not long afterward, the community center celebrated its 20th anniversary with a daytime family festival. Hundreds gathered beneath colorful decorations while children played games across the open field. Aurora stood beside Garrett as volunteers honored families whose lives had been transformed by the center. Unexpectedly, Callan stepped onto the small stage carrying the same drawing Finn had given Aurora on the day they first met. Only now it had been carefully framed. He explained that his little brother had believed from the beginning that everyone deserved another happy day. The audience grew emotional as Callan thanked Aurora for helping strangers long before she ever met them and thanked his father for proving that love was measured through daily sacrifices rather than grand speeches. Then Finn ran forward and wrapped both adults in the biggest hug his tiny arms could manage. There were no expensive fireworks. No luxury celebrations. Only bright afternoon sunshine, joyful children, grateful families, and hearts finally healing together. Before we reach the end of this story, we would love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment telling us whether you believe kindness shown to strangers can one day return in unexpected ways, or share the lesson from this story that touched your heart the most. 1 year later, Aurora and Garrett married during a simple outdoor ceremony surrounded by friends, volunteers, co-workers, and families whose lives had crossed theirs through unexpected acts of compassion. The boys walked proudly beside their father, smiling wider than anyone else present. Aurora never tried to erase the family's past. Instead, she helped them carry it with love. Garrett never saw Aurora as a billionaire first again. He saw the woman who chose people over power every single day. Together they proved that the richest life is not built through money but through mercy, patience, sacrifice, and hope shared with others. The greatest blind date in their lives had never been about romance alone. It had been about 4 lonely hearts discovering that family sometimes arrives in the most unexpected way, under the brightest afternoon sun, carrying nothing more valuable than kindness. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that one simple act of compassion can become the beginning of someone else's second chance, and sometimes the family we never expected becomes the greatest blessing we ever receive.